Hello Internet, it's Andrew Potter back with another exciting reading of Life of Pi. Last time we left off we just got into some deeply religious stuff, so I'm hoping I still have a couple of viewers after discussing religion. But yeah, today we are going to read chapter 8, which hopefully is a little bit less on that end. It's a bit longer, so this should be a little bit of a longer video for you guys who might complain that the last one was a little bit shorter. Again, it was just because I didn't want to tack the last video, which was already like 12 minutes, onto this one, which I'm assuming will be a lot longer. Alright, so let's get ready with chapter 8. We commonly say in the trade that the most dangerous animal in a zoo is man. In a general way, we mean how our species' excessive predatoriness has made the entire planet our prey. More specifically, we have in mind the people who feed fishhooks to the otters, razors to the bears, apples with small nails in them to the elephants, and hardware variations on the theme ballpoint pens, paper clips, safety pins, rubber bands, combs, coffee spoons, horseshoes, pieces of broken glass, rings, brooches, and other jewelry, and not just cheap plastic bangles, gold wedding bands too, drawing straws, plastic cutlery, ping pong balls, tennis balls, and so on. The obituary of zoo animals that have died from being fed foreign bodies would include gorillas, bison, storks, rays, ostriches, seals, sea lions, big cats, bears, camels, elephants, monkeys, and most every variant of deer, ruminant, and songbird. Among zookeepers, Goliath's death is famous. He was a bull elephant seal, a great big, vulnerable beast of 2 tons, star of the European Zoo, loved by all visitors. He died of internal bleeding after someone fed him a broken beer bottle. Oh, that's awful. The cruelty is often more active and direct. The literature contains reports on many torments inflicted upon zoo animals. A shoebill dying of shock after having its beak smashed with a hammer, a moose stag losing its beard, along with a strip of flesh the size of an index finger to a visitor's knife. What? The same moose was poisoned 6 months later. Oh my god! I've never heard of terrible stuff like this happening to zoo animals. Like, the worst thing I heard of was Harambe. I'm sorry, none of you knew that animal. Please stop freaking out about it, unless you did know that animal, in which case, yes, you are rightfully to be sad, but I don't get why the whole internet went crazy over Harambe. Wow, that's awful, and I'm seeing that there's longer to that list, so I'm gonna be sad now. Okay. A monkey's arm broken after reaching out for proffered nuts. A deer's antler attached with a hacksaw. A zebra stabbed with a sword, and other assaults on other animals with walking sticks, umbrellas, hairpins, knitting needles, scissors, and whatnot, often with an aim of taking out an eye or an injured sexual part. Ew! Why would you do that to an animal? Don't hit animals in the dick. Or vagina. Don't hit animals. Is that enough? I think that's enough. Don't hit animals. Not a cool thing. I'm not going to be your friend. Animals are also poisoned, and there are indecencies even more bizarre. Ornatus breaking a sweat on monkeys, ponies, birds, a religious freak who cut a snake's head off, a deranged man who took to urinating in an elk's mouth. That one's just weird. At Pondicherry, we were relatively fortunate. We were spared the sadists who plied European and American zoos. Nonetheless, our golden agouti vanished, stolen by someone who ate it. Father suspected. Various birds, pheasants, peacocks, macaws, lost feathers to people greedy for their beauty. We caught a man with a knife climbing into the pen for mouse deer, and he said he was going to punish evil Ravana, who in the Ramayana took the form of a deer when he kidnapped Sita, Rama's consort. I mean, this is just getting weird. Like, okay, so killing the animals and hurting the animals pointlessly is, first off, wrong, but also I don't understand why. Like, why are you going to a zoo to do this? I'm not recommending this, I'm not recommending animal violence in any means, but if I was someone who was looking to hurt an animal, I would do it on, like, a stray animal or an animal in the wild. Zoos, you're gonna get caught and, like, there's people there watching you. There are people there specifically paying to view this thing. Like, they're gonna see you. Stealing animals, again, morally wrong, and I'm not recommending it, but I can understand why someone would, because rare animals are worth money. So I understand the reason for it, and I understand this is worth money. And the feathers, like, again, even especially if they're loose, like if they're already feathers that have fallen off, I understand it because beauty or money. Like if you're going two birds and plucking their feathers, again, wrong and bad. The stealing already plucked feathers, I'm like, that's smart business. Slightly morally questionable, not the greatest, but I can see where someone is coming from. And the crazy guy who wanted to hurt a deer because of religious reasons. Again, going back to the last video, maybe this is why I'm agnostic, because people do stuff like that. Not that non-religious people are morally superior or morally inferior, but this is just a reason. I mean, yeah. Another man was nabbed in the process of stealing a cobra. That's a dangerous snake. You're gonna get bitten. Whatever injuries that guy sustained, he deserved it. He was a snake charmer whose own snake had died. Oh, that's... I mean, still, dude, you can't go around stealing other people's snakes, but that's awful. Both were saved. The cobra from a life of servitude and bad music, and the man from a possible death bite. Good job, Neil Martel, calling that guy out on bad music. We had to deal on occasion with stone throwers, who found the animals too placid and wanted a reaction. That's still bad. That's still bad, guys. And we had the lady whose sari was caught by a lion. I don't know what that means. She spun like a yo-yo, choosing mortal embarrassment over mortal end. The thing was, it wasn't even an accident. She had leaned over, thrust her hand in the cage, and waved the end of her sari in the lion's face. With what intent, we never figured out. See, that's just dumb. She was not injured. There were many fascinated men who came to her assistance. Her flustered explanation to father was, "Whoever heard of a lion eating a cotton sari? I thought lions were carnivores." So I decided to wave it, because here's the thing, is what she didn't think out was, sure, the cotton sari, which I'm assuming is like a scarf or something, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but in the lion's face, your hand is meat. Carnivores eat meat. Lion goes, yummy. Our worst troublemakers were the visitors who gave food to the animals. Despite our vigilance, Dr. Attal, the zoo veterinarian, could tell by the number of animals with digestive disturbances, which had been the busy days at the zoo. He called tidbititis, the case of enteritis or gastritis, due to many carbohydrates, especially sugar. Sometimes we wish people had stuck to sweets. People have a notion that animals can eat anything without the least consequences to their health. No, that's dumb. Because humans are animals, and we can't eat whatever we want without side effects. So why would other animals? Not so. See? Yeah. One of our sloth bears became seriously ill with severe hemorrhagic enteritis after being given fish which had gone putrid by a man who was convinced he was doing a good deed. Don't give people dead fish. Don't give animals dead fish. That's what the zoo is there for. Just beyond the ticket booth, father had painted on a wall in bright letters the question, do you know which is the most dangerous animal in the zoo? An arrow pointed to a small curtain. There were so many eager, curious hands that pulled at the curtain that we had to replace it eagerly. Behind it was a mirror. Yeah, I like that. That's a smart, cool thing. But I learned at my expense that father believed there was another animal even more dangerous than us, and one that was extremely common too, found on every continent, in every habitat, the redoubtful species, Anomalous anthropomorpheus, the animal as seen through human eyes. We've all met one, perhaps even owned one. It is an animal that is cute, friendly, loving, devoted, merry, understanding. These animals lie in ambush in every toy store and children's zoo. Countless stories are told of them. They are the pendants of those vicious, bloodthirsty, depraved animals that flare the ire of maniacs. I've just mentioned who vent their spite on. In Flare the Ire of Maniacs, I have just mentioned, who vent their spite on them with walking sticks and umbrellas. In both cases, we look at animals and see a mirror. The obsession with putting ourselves at the center of everything is the bane not only of theologians, but also zoologists. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's very dangerous for us to anthropomorphize things, because then it takes away from what the thing is. I also think there's a debate to be made that doing that sometimes puts our psychological and different types of experiments in ethics boards. It puts them in a lot of ways we are too safe with our ethics boards, and we go too far with them to the point that it gets hard to prove anything anymore or do certain studies. And I mean yes, because it hurts those people at the time, but at the same time it's helping millions if not billions, and then you get into, does that outweigh that one person? And I don't know. I learned the lesson that an animal is an animal, essentially the practicality removed from us, twice, once with Father and once with Richard Parker. It was on a Sunday morning. I was quietly playing on my own. Father called out, "Children, come here." Something was wrong. His tone of voice set off a small alarm bell in my head. I quickly reviewed my conscience. It was clear. Ravi must be in trouble again. That's such a kid thing to do. You have to go through every little thing that you did when your parents call you over. I wondered what he had done this time. I walked into the living room. Mother was there. That was unusual. The disciplining of children, like the tending of animals, was generally left to Father. Ravi walked in last, guilt written all over his criminal face. "Ravi, Piscine, I have a very important lesson for you today." "Oh really? Is this necessary?" interrupted Mother. Her face was flushed. I swallowed. If Mother, normally so unruffled, so calm, was worried, even upset, it meant that we were in serious trouble. I exchanged glances with Ravi. "Yes it is," said Father, annoyed. "It may very well save their lives." Saved our lives? It was no longer a small alarm bell that was ringing in my head. They were big bells now, like the ones we heard from Sacred Heart of Jesus Church, not far from the zoo. Sacred Heart of Jesus Church? Okay. "But Piscine, he's only 8, Mother insisted. "He's the one who worries me the most." "I'm innocent," I burst out. "It's Ravi's fault. Whatever it is, he did it." "What?" said Ravi. "I haven't done anything wrong." He gave me the evil eye. "Shush," said Father, raising his hand. He was looking at Mother. Jita? I'm gonna go with Jita. Jita, you've seen Piscine. At his age, when boys run around and poke their noses everywhere. Me? A run around her? An everywhere nose poker? Not so. Not so. Defend me, Mother. Defend me. I implore in my heart. But she only sighed and nodded, a signal that the terrible business could proceed. "Come with me," said Father. We set out like prisoners off to their execution. We left the house, went through the gate, entered the zoo. It was early and the zoo hadn't opened yet to the public. Animal keepers and groundskeepers were going about their work. I noticed Saidaram, who oversaw the orangutans, my favorite keeper. He paused to watch us go by. We passed birds, bears, apes, monkeys, ungulates, the terrarium house, the rhinos, the elephants, the giraffes. We came to the big cats, our tigers, lions, and leopards. Babu, their keeper, was waiting for us. Oh, cats and Life of Pi and I'm liking this. I'm liking it. Where'd I go? We went around down the path and he unlocked the door to the cat house, which was at the center of a moated island. We entered. It was a vast and dim cement cavern, circular in shape, warm and humid, and smelling of cat urine. All around were great big cages, divided up by thick green iron bars. A yellowish light filtered down from the skylights. Through the cage exits we could see the vegetation of the surrounding island, flooded with sunlight. The cages were empty, save one. Maisha, our Bengal tiger patriarch, A lanky, hulking beast of 550 pounds, that's crazy, had been detained. As soon as we stepped in, he lopped up to the bars of his cage and set off a full-throttled snarl, ears flat against his skull and round eyes fixed on Babu. The sound was so loud and fierce it seemed to shake the whole cat house. My knees started quaking. I got close to Mother. She was trembling too. Even Father seemed to pause and steady himself. Only Babu was indifferent to the outburst and to the searing stare that bored into him like a drill. He had a tested trust in iron bars. Mahisha stared pacing to and fro against the limits of his cage. Father turned to us. "What animal is this?" he bellowed above Mahisha's snarl. God, this would be terrifying as a kid. Could you imagine, just like, your dad brings you into a stone island in the middle of a moat and goes, "What is this?" and a snarling tiger is staring at you? "It's a tiger," Ravi and I answered in unison, obediently pointing out the blindingly obvious. "Are tigers dangerous?" "Yes, Father, tigers are dangerous. Tigers are very dangerous," Father shouted. "I want you to understand that you are never, under any circumstances, to touch a tiger, to pet a tiger, to put your hands through the bars of a cage, even to get close to a cage. Is that clear, Ravi?" Ravi nodded vigorously. "Basim?" I nodded even more vigorously. He kept his eyes on me. I nodded so hard I'm surprised my neck didn't snap and my head fall to the floor. I would like to say in my own defense that though I have anthropomorphized the animals till they spoke fluent English, the pheasants complaining in uppity British accents of their tea being cold, and the baboons planning their bank robbery getaway in the flat, menacing tones of American gangsters, the fancy was always conscious. I quite deliberately dressed wild animals in tame costumes of my imagination, but I never deluded myself as to the real nature of my playmates. My poking nose had more sense than that. I don't know where Father got the idea that his youngest son was itching to step into a cage with a ferocious carnivore, but wherever the strange worry came from, and Father was a worrier, he was clearly determined to rid himself of that in this very morning. "I'm going to show you how dangerous tigers are," he continued. "Oh no! I want you to remember this lesson for the rest of your lives." He turned to Babu and nodded. Babu left. Mahisha's eyes followed him and did not move from the door he disappeared through. He returned a few seconds later carrying a goat with its legs tied. Oh, is he gonna make the tiger eat the goat in front of his kids? Mother gripped me from behind. Mahisha's snarl turned into a growl deep in the throat. Babu unlocked, opened, entered, closed, and locked a cage next to the tiger's cage. Bars and a trapdoor separated the two. Immediately Mahisha was up against the divided bars, pawing them. To his growling, he now added explosive, arrested woofs. Woofs. Babu placed the goat on the floor. Its flanks were heaving violently. Its tongue hung from its mouth. Oh, it's alive? Oh, no. Oh. Could you imagine? You're 8 years old. You're 8 years old. Your dad takes you into, a tiger exhibit, asks you how dangerous a tiger is, and then a living goat is tied up and gonna be brought to the tiger for feeding. That is not cool. Its tongue hung from its mouth and its eyes were spinning orbs. He untied its legs. The goat got to its feet. Babu exited the cage in the same careful way he had entered it. The cage had 2 floors, one level with us, the other at the back, higher, by about 3 feet. That led outside to the island. The goat scrambled to its 2nd level. Mahisha, now unconcerned with Babu, paralleled the move on its cage in a fluid, effortless motion. He crouched and lay still, his slowly moving tail the only sign of tension. Babu stepped out of the trapdoor between the cages and started pulling it open, in anticipation of satisfaction. Mahisha fell silent. I heard 2 things at that moment. Father saying, "Never forget this lesson," as he looked on grimly, and the bleating of the goat. It must have been bleeding all along, only we couldn't hear it before. I could feel Mother's hand pressed against my pounding heart. The trapdoor resisted with sharp cries. Mahisha was beside himself. He looked as if he were about to burst through the bars. He seemed to hesitate between staying where he was at the place where his prey was closest, but most certainly out of reach, and moving to the ground level, further away but where the trapdoor was located. He raised himself and started to snarl again. The goat started to jump. It jumped to amazing heights. I had no idea a goat could jump so high, but the back of the cage was a high and smooth cement wall. With sudden ease the trapdoor slid open. Silence fell again, except for bleating and the click-click of the goat's hooves against the floor. A streak of black and orange flowed from one cage to the next. Oh, normally the big cats were not given food 1 day a week to simulate conditions in the wild. We found out later that Father had ordered that Mahisha not be fed for 3 days. This thing's gonna be wicked. This thing's gonna be deadly. This goat is not gonna have a great day. I don't know if I saw the blood before turning into Mother's arms, or if I dabbed it on later in my memory with a big brush, but I heard. It was enough to scare the living vegetarian daylights out of me. Mother bundled us out. We were in hysterics. She was incensed. How could you, Santosh? They're children. They'll be scared for the rest of their lives. Her voice was hot and tremulous. I could see she had tears in her eyes. I felt better. Gita, my bird, it's for their sake. What if Basine had stuck his hand through the bars of the cage one day to touch the pretty orange fur? Better a goat than him, no? His voice was soft, nearly a whisper. He looked contrite. He never called her my bird in front of us. We were huddled around her. He joined us, but the lesson was not over, though it was gentler after that. Father fed us to the lions and leopards. Once there was a madman in Australia who was a black belt in karate. He wanted to prove himself against the lions. He lost, badly. Don't fight a lion. Don't do it. That does not sound like a smart thing. I have a friend who has a black belt in karate, and if he fought a lion, I would punch him in the face. I would lose that fight, but I would punch him in the face once to say, don't fight a lion. If you're watching, you know who you are. Don't fight a lion. The keepers found only half its body in the morning. Yes, Father. The Himalayan bears and the sloth bears. One strike of the claws from these cuddly creatures, and your innards will be scooped out and splattered all over the ground. Yes, Father. The hippos. With those soft, flabby mouths of theirs, they'll crush your body into a bloody pulp. On land, they can outrun you. Yes, Father. The hyenas. The strongest jaws in nature. Don't think that they're cowardly or that they only eat carrion. They're not, and they don't. They'll start eating you while you're still alive. Yes, Father. The orangutans. As strong as 10 men. They'll break your bones as if they were twigs. I know some of them were once pets, and you played with them when they were small, but now they're grown up and wild and unpredictable. Yes, Father. The ostrich. Looks flustered and silly, doesn't it? Listen up. It's one of the most dangerous animals in the zoo. Just one kick, and your back is broken, or your torso is crushed. Yes, Father. The spotted deer. So pretty, aren't they? If the male feels he has to, he'll charge you, and those short little antlers will pierce you like daggers. Yes, Father. The Arabian camel. One slobbering bite, and you'll have lost a chunk of flesh. Yes, Father. The black swans. With their beaks, they'll crack your skull. With their wings, they'll break your arms. Yes, Father. The smaller birds. They'll cut through your fingers with their beaks as if they were butter. Yes, Father. The elephants. The most dangerous animal of all. Well, you said it was the tiger or man. More keepers and visitors are killed by elephants than any other animal in a zoo. A young elephant will most likely dismember you and trample your body parts flat. That's what happened to one poor lost soul in a European zoo who got into the elephant house through a window. An older, more patient animal will squeeze you against a will or sit on you. Sounds funny, but think about it. Yes, Father. I need a glass of water. There are animals we haven't stopped by. Don't think they're harmless. Life will defend itself no matter how small it is. Every animal is ferocious and dangerous. It may not kill you, but it will certainly injure you. It will scratch you and bite you, and you can look forward to a swollen, pus-filled infection, a high fever, and a 10-day stay in a hospital. Yes, Father. We came to the guinea pigs, the only other animal besides Mahisha to have been starved at Father's orders. Having been denied their previous evening's meal, Father unlocked the cage. He brought out a bag of feed from his pocket and emptied it onto the floor. You see these guinea pigs? Yes, Father. The creatures were trembling with weakness as they frantically nibbled their kernels of corn. Well, he leaned down and scooped one up. They're not dangerous. The other guinea pigs scattered instantly. Father laughed. He handed me the squealing guinea pig. He meant to end on a light note. The guinea pig rested in my arms tensely. It was a young one. I went to the cage and carefully lowered it to the floor. It rushed to its mother's side. The only reason these guinea pigs weren't dangerous, didn't draw blood with their teeth and claws, was that they were practically domesticated. Otherwise, to grab a wild guinea pig with your bare hands would be like taking hold of a knife by the blade. The lesson was over. Ravi and I sulked and gave Father the cold shoulder for a week. Mother ignored him too. When I went to the rhinoceros pit, I fancied the rhinos' heads were hung low with sadness over the loss of one of their dear companions. Oh, they lost a goat. But what can you do when you love your father? Life goes on and you don't touch tigers. I mean, fair enough. That's going to be my new life motto. Life goes on, don't touch tigers. I'm getting that tattooed somewhere, I promise you. I don't promise you that. That's a terrible idea. Except that now, for having accused Ravi of an unspecified crime he hadn't committed, I was as good as dead. In years subsequent, when he was in the mood to terrorize me, he would whisper to me, "Just wait till you're alone. You're the next goat." That's horrifying. That is the end of chapter 8. I really liked that chapter. I thought that was definitely, how do I describe it? It's a lot lighter, or it's a lot less controversial than the last chapter. But it's just as meaningful. It's definitely one of those like father tough lessons you get as a kid, like the I don't know, everybody has examples. What was a tough one for me was swimming, which to learn was just swim. Oh, I'm in the pool and drowning now. But you know, like it's one of those it's one of those tough love lessons. It's one of those, you know, I'm gonna teach you in a way that you won't forget kind of thing. Like I heard a lot of kids, I've heard this not from kids but from parents, that like when their parents caught them with a cigarette, the parent would buy a pack of cigarettes and make the kid smoke like the whole thing to kind of like teach, like, if you want to smoke, this is how you smoke kind of thing. I've never smoked cigarettes, so I'm happy my parents have never had to do that with me. But yeah, like it was a nice real moment, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't anything too dangerous. I mean, it wasn't anything too dangerous. They just like showed a wild tiger eating a goat. But it was a real moment. It was a real, you know, non-controversial, I mean, maybe between the Ravi and Gita. I'm gonna keep pronouncing her name differently each time. I can feel it. But it was a nice moment between them. Like, they were controversial and felt like real parents. Like, that's not how you should teach your kid. Well, that's how I'm gonna teach my kid, kind of thing. But yeah, no, I really liked that chapter. I think it was a good moment. I keep saying the same thing over and over again. I'm sorry. You know, and the whole brother dynamic there was worked too. Like the whole, well, I know I'm not guilty, so it has to be you, and I didn't do it, Ravi did. Like, it was clearly, you know, there have been times where me and my sister, like, I knew I didn't do anything, so I was like, no, I didn't do it, she did it. Like, clearly it had to be her, kind of thing, and kind of throw them under the bus. And in the last line, the next time we're alone, you're the next goat, kind of thing, like that. Using that to like scare your brother after your father used it to scare you, that really works. That's really it for that chapter. It was nothing amazing. Like, there wasn't any super great uses of languages. I mean, there was the repetition of the yes father that I liked, and teaching them the different animals, and just the list of the different animals. I thought that was really good. Like actually there was the really good use of the list of all the different animals and how they had been hurt by people in the zoo before, kind of thing. Even though that was a bit, I mean, it was a dark chapter. I'll say that it was a dark chapter about all like the monkey getting its arm broken, animals getting hit in the genitalia, the moose that got poisoned. Like, that was dark. And then they brought it more to like how he learned that lesson specifically to not danger animals and not, to be cautious around animals. I thought that was a nice little tie-in. It makes it make sense. It's like most people don't learn these things because they do stupid stuff to animals, which is dumb and bad. Don't do it. Be nice to animals. But, and then it's, well, why am I different? Why did I learn this lesson? Because my father showed me a tiger eating a goat right in front of me, live. Like, yeah, that's a good way to learn not to mess with animals and to be very cautious and respectful of animals, is because animals can do this stuff if they want to. That's all I've got to say for this video. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And feel free to post questions. Like I said at the end of the last video, is when I'm done all this, I want to answer questions that you guys have for me about this book. I don't know if there was maybe one of those specific animal instances that you wanted me to talk about. Maybe there was a lesson learned in this book that I seem to be like talking really passionately about, that you guys want to know how I learned that lesson or where I came from to get that answer. I mean, this is also a really good book just in case you guys want to ask me questions about me, kind of thing, because it seems like there's going to be lots of like life stories that you can be like, hey Andrew, Ravi learned, or oh my god, the main character, Pi learned to respect animals. Did you learn to respect animals, and why do you seem so passionate about that? You can ask that, and then I can answer it at the very end when we're done the whole book. How far are we into the book? Not very, so there's definitely lots of time to come up with questions for this one. We're that far. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're not very far. Like maybe a 16th, maybe an 8th to a 16th. But comment them now while you're thinking of them, so that way you don't have to leave it till the very end. Because when I'm done recording the last video of the book, of me reading the last chapter, I will go through and start looking at the comments in the videos if there are any, and I will I will write down the questions that have been asked, and I'll write down who asked them, or if you want, you can always, if you guys have my phone number, you can text me, or you can Facebook message me the questions, and if you want me to like not say your name, feel free to say that too. Even on the YouTube comments, if you want to say, hey, don't mention my name though, then yeah, totally, I will, just write down the questions and read them aloud and answer them during the very last video, which will be after I've read the last chapter. But that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, sure, we'll say that's it. If I think of anything, I'll post it on the next video. So feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good night.